And I'm no namby-pamby at all. I'm all for people having a drink on the day as long as they're not in recovery and they're of age. And so really, it's the issue of us being careless about our own identity, and we are the ones who are propagating the stereotype.
That's William Spencer Reilly, reclaiming the day as the founder of Sober St. Patrick's Day. And I'm John Lee. On Irish Stew, we've leaned into the Irish drinks culture through our episodes with entrepreneurs creating new kinds of whiskey, gin, poitín, beers, and ales. We've hosted a few pub nights in New York and Dublin, and we even recorded an episode in New York's venerable McSorley's Old Ale House. But we've always been aware of the flip side to the Irish drinking scene and the sting of the drunken Irish stereotype. If on St. Patrick's Day you are wandering down certain Midtown New York streets where one Irish pub runs into the next, that stereotype can hit too close to home. It felt that way to William Spencer Reilly when on such a street on a St. Patrick's Day 14 years ago, something caught Bill's eye, something that would spur him into action.
It was 2011, and I was at the St. Patrick's Day parade, and I was right by the St. Patrick's Cathedral, and I was feeling very proud. All these marching bands going by, great crack in the area, and I was just blown away by how much it meant to me as I was witnessing this great event. And the parade is the biggest and the oldest one in the world. And out of the corner of my eye, I see this kid. He was about 22 years old. And he was holding a can of Budweiser. He was drunk as a skunk. It was about 12:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And he was with a bunch of his friends who were equally wasted. And he was wearing a T-shirt. And the T-shirt said, St. Patrick's Day today, hungover tomorrow. So I went up to him. I didn't pass judgment. I went up to him and I said, hey, man, that's a pretty wild T-shirt. Where'd you get that? And he said, oh, I got it at the mall in New Jersey. They sell 1 million of them. Isn't it great? And right then and there, John, a light bulb went on. And I said, wow, what if next year we could hold a rip-roaring party with world-class entertainment, musicians, dancers, storytellers, but not have any booze? Because it was so clear to me that the day had been hijacked by, and a lot of the kids he was with weren't even Irish, I'm sure, but it's been hijacked as a day to just go nuts. And not only does that feed the stereotype, but more importantly, it's dangerous because I've since found out that St. Patrick's Day, unfortunately, has become the #1 day of the year, meaning worst day of the year, for the introduction of binge drinking among high school and college kids.
Massive problem.
And that's huge. And we're not against, and nor am I, people having a drink on the day. We're just against people having 8 or 9 drinks on the day and making us all look stupid, and more importantly, continuing any stereotype. But this is a very dangerous thing for young people in particular. And basically what happened was the light bulb went on and I suddenly said, wow, what if we did this? And so I met with Maura Kelly, and Maura said, well, that's not going to be easy to do, Bill.
Maura's a real well-known figure on the New York Irish scene, and also a media professional like yourself. We'll get into your background a little bit. But.
Yeah, no, and Maura said, okay, I'll help. And she said, you know what? I'm going to have you meet the Consul General of Ireland. I said, oh my goodness, wow. I said, you could do that? She said, yeah, his name is Noel Kilkenny. He's a great guy. So I go to meet Noel with Maura, and he was very quiet and said, that's not going to be easy to do, but I tell you what, I think it's a terrific idea. And I think what sold him on it when I said, it's not anti-drink, it's anti-drunk. And I think for him that meant everything. And so he said, I'll tell you what, this is not going to be easy, and I'll hold a lunch for you at my apartment. And back in the day, the Consul General had a beautiful apartment on the 53rd floor with a wraparound balcony looking at both the Hudson River and the East River. And he said, invite some people. And I did that. It was on January the 7th of 2012, and this is now 9 weeks away from the event. And fortunately, because of a family member who suffered at the age of 17 from addiction and alcoholism, I got to meet some of the big movers and shakers in the recovery world, from Hazelton and from Betty Ford and from the Karen Treatment Center and other people in New York. I invited them to come. And Noel hosted this fabulous luncheon, and it was basically up to me to pitch them. So I said, look, I have this idea, but I'm going to give myself until January 25th, 2 weeks from now, because I've raised some money to do this, but I would love your help to spread the word. And obviously, it isn't just for people in recovery. It's for anybody. It's for anybody who doesn't want to be hijacked by the day. And over the next 2 weeks, I was hoping to find the extra money that I would need to do the first annual event. And I was hell-bent on making it an annual event. And sure enough, I gave myself until January 25th. And on the morning of January 25th, Sis Wenger, who was the CEO of the National Association for Children of Alcoholics, said, I've just gotten some money from Betty Ford. And that gave me the exact amount of money I needed to do it. And then I had a real problem. John, I didn't have a venue. I didn't have any musicians. I didn't have any. I had nothing but an idea.
So where are we now on the calendar with March 17th?
We're 7 weeks away.
7 weeks. Okay.
So
Easy job.
So that's right. So I just went to work. I'm a producer. I've done a lot of big events in my life, and so I got to tell you, John, the Red Sea parted. I got John Whalen, who's a 7-time All-Ireland button accordion player. He got Brian Conway, who's a 5-time All-Ireland fiddle player. Brendan Dolan, who's a great pianist, and little Haley Richardson, who at the time was 9 years old. She was a phenom with the fiddle, who, as you may know, all these years later, is the lead fiddle player in a little show called Riverdance. Mm-hmm. She played in any event. So the Red Sea parted. I got a great venue at Regis High School, which was up near the end of the parade. Perfect. And Maura was able to put the word out. And about 2 weeks before the event, Maura calls me and says, oh, it's going to be in the Irish Voice. And I thought, oh, it'd be nice to get a little article in the Irish Voice. So I go and buy a copy of it, and it wasn't a little article. It was the front page of the Irish Voice, saying, sober up for St. Pat's. And it tooted our horn that we wanted to do this. Fionnuala Flanagan came in from Hollywood, and she talked about it at the Irish Hall of Fame that she was being inducted into. So the end of the story is 2 nights before the event, literally on the Ides of March, on March 15th, I called Noel Kilkenny, the Consul General, and I said, Noel, I think you'll like to know that Sober St. Patrick's Day is sold out.
Incredible.
And the rest is history.
Well, there's a quote I saw on some web surfing, TikTok, Instagram, something. It was Josh Groban, the singer.
Yeah.
And he might have been a commencement address, something like that. He was saying, if you want to get things done, hire a theater kid. So we got a theater kid here, Bill Reilly. Take us back, give us a little sense of where you grew up, how you grew up, and how you found your way into acquiring all these production skills that serve you so well with Sober St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, I see. Well, actually, I started as an actor, and I did my apprenticeship with the Yale Repertory Company when I was at Fordham, and it was an amazing experience for me because it was the best graduates of the Yale School of Drama, of their professional theater company, and they needed one of the apprentices, of which I was one, to complete the company, and I was chosen so I didn't have to paint scenery. I was actually in a lot of the shows, and that was a great introduction to a great group of people. And in the theater, so much of it's all about who you meet and who you know. And one of the shows we were doing was moving to Broadway, and so I was cast in that as an understudy. And I was just over the moon that I had really great training from the Yale Rep. And then I did a bunch of stuff. I toured with Broadway shows and did some commercials. And then after about 3 years, I decided I really had a yen to produce. And I was very lucky. I was made the director of the American Theater Wing, the people that do the Tony Awards. And that was an amazing opportunity being so young. The guy I replaced was 65. I was hoping he would give me a job as his assistant, and he takes me to lunch and he offers me his job. What was great about that, because of the power of the Tony Awards, there wasn't anybody who I wasn't in touch with. And the head of the Schubert organization had to return my phone calls, right? Which was great. Anyway, I got involved with producing, and
producing also in a particular way that would suit you well for putting on events.
Well,
you were producing these award shows.
Yes,
which have to have some similarities to what you're doing.
Actually, that's exactly right. Yeah. Because, in fact, the best way I ever heard it described is when you do a major special event, it's even tougher because you open and close in one night and you get no previews. It's got to be right. Theater training is great for this, but doing special events is even tougher, as I said, for that reason. And I did a big thing for 10 years during the 80s and into the early 90s. On Broadway. It was an evening that raised a lot of money. It was a black tie affair, about 1,500 people. The last time we did it on the set of Phantom of the Opera at the Majestic Theater. And the name of the show was Waiting in the Wings. the night the understudies take center stage.
What a great idea.
So it was literally the best moment from every Broadway show. But then a bunch of major stars came and played the minor roles by introducing them. And of course, that added the glitz.
Yeah.
Even more people like Denzel Washington and Helen Hayes and Douglas Fairbanks Jr. And it was just, and they knew the evening was not about them.
Yeah.
It was just about setting up the number. So anyway,
I've been to a lot of Broadway shows where they've announced the understudy for a key character, and I'm like, yeah, I groan, and then I see who they bring out, and is there somebody better than who I'm just seeing right now?
Yeah.
Seems perfect.
yeah. So it was we did that. I did it 5 times, and it always was a great. In fact, I probably want to do it again now that I'm retired because it's
Always great
been
idea, great
yeah.
concept. Such talent running around New
Right.
York.
That's right.
Well, let's dial it back a little bit. Your upbringing,
Sure.
and what did your parents think when you said you were going to the theater? Those
Oh
kind
boy, I was the black sheep, boy. I'll tell you, because I come from a whole family of doctors. My father's a doctor, and my 2 oldest brothers were doctors. My uncle was a doctor.
here in New York.
Yeah, so I grew up in Stuyvesant Town in Manhattan.
Okay.
It was a great place to grow up. I went to the local Catholic school, Immaculate Conception on 14th Street. And Stuytown, when it was built, you had to be a veteran to get in right after World War II. So by the time I was born in 1950, there was just nothing but tons of kids, young couples making babies. And so it was a great place to grow up. And then I went to Fordham Prep, which I had a terrific high school experience. Probably the best years of my life were in high school. And I still Zoom with my buddies 55 years later. And then from there, I went to a special program at Fordham University. And then, as I said, I did my apprenticeship with the Yale Rep. So I'm a New York City kid. I worked in New York every job I've ever had my entire life, always in Manhattan. And I now live in Connecticut and live in the life of Reilly up there.
There you go. The suburbs grabbed you. Bill, I'm looking at your lapel. You've got a little scallop shell with a red cross on it.
Yeah.
I think that indicates an important aspect of your worldview and your outlook.
Yeah, I'm actually working with Martin Sheen on a project now. And Martin did a movie called The Way about the Camino. And I was so moved by that little movie that I decided to walk the Camino myself, which I did last year, which was an amazing experience. I think if it's not the oldest, it's certainly one of the oldest pilgrimages in the world where you walk. I did 100 kilometers, which is the shortest amount, but it's about 16 miles a day for 5 days. And the people you meet along the way are people from all over the world. And it is a great experience just to be alone and to really reflect on your place in the universe. It ends at the cathedral in Santiago, and that experience was one of the best of my life. And as a Catholic, I can't recommend it more. Whether you're Catholic or not, it's a great experience.
There's several points in your resume and in your life where you see the Fordham is the Catholic University, Jesuits here in the Bronx, and also a campus at Lincoln Center. It sounds like there's a Catholicism, a faith that sort of informs your career and your life.
Yeah, and I went through times when I wasn't going to church, and in the last 15 years, I have come back full tilt, and a lot of it has had to do with my own family background. My mother and father were great influences on me. It had to do a lot with the Jesuits that taught me and continue to be friends of mine. And also, actually, in recovery, I have a family member who I almost lost at 17, my daughter, and she's my hero. And I learned more about God in recovery than I did anywhere. And that's only strengthened my Catholic faith. And part of recovery is really developing a relationship with God, because a lot of people are either angry or pissed off, or the part of recovery is finding a new relationship with God. And I did that in working what I've experienced. And that's mainly because of her.
Well, it sounds like we're seeing now some of the threads that lead us back into Sober St. Patrick's Day, the production, theatrical experience, a sort of spiritual grounding, personal experience with the problem. Well, let's get a little bit more into what Sober St. Patrick's Day is really addressing. It seems like there's 2 branches here. There's what I'll call the on-ramp to binge drinking.
Yeah.
And then the other part is what a terrible perception of Irish culture this presents.
Yes.
So why don't you talk about how both of those ideas...
Yeah, it's extraordinary, because what people don't want to believe, and I know this scientifically because I've done a lot of study on this, and I've had the privilege of working, for instance, with a professor at Brown University, Nadine Mastrolio. She did her doctorate on college drinking. And she was the one who informed me about Patrick's Day becoming the #1 day for the introduction to binge drinking among high school and college kids. And what people don't want to believe is that, and this will happen this coming March 17th, and that is 10% of those young people who are introduced to binge drinking on our national holiday will begin the slippery slope into addiction that day.
Well,
And binge drinking is up on campuses all over the country year round.
Yeah.
Because it's so expensive to go out now. They load up before they go out.
Pre-game, I think it's called.
Yeah, there you go. And actually, March itself, it's interesting. It isn't just Patrick's Day, it's spring break and also the March Madness. To me, the sad thing is that we Irish put up with it and we say, oh, yeah, they'll get over it, or they'll not speak up about how the day has just been hijacked. And I'm no namby-pamby at all. I'm all for people having a drink on the day as long as they're not in recovery and they're of age.
Yeah.
And so really, it's the issue of us being careless about our own identity, and we are the ones who are propagating the stereotype.
We just came from the Irish Consulate at their first Friday breakfast. We met a young woman named Kate.
Uh-huh.
And Kate was talking. She's just over from a Limerick, I believe.
Yeah.
Been here since August. And she's shocked by the way Americans so associate the Irish with alcohol and St. Patrick's Day with drinking.
Yeah.
And I think it points to something we address here or we look into in Irish too, is dated perceptions of the
yes.
Irish. And
Yeah.
I've had many Irish people in New York, like, we don't do this in Ireland. We were with some folks from the west of Ireland last year. And after the St. Patrick's Day Mass, we went to a pub for some breakfast, and they were quite shocked to see at 10 in the morning people drinking beer. That's not what they do in Ireland.
Yeah.
So it's dated perceptions.
Yeah.
And you found, I think, the antidote is that people also love Irish culture.
Right. Well, that's the other half of our mission. Our other half of mission is to promote the depth and beauty of Irish culture.
Yeah.
And the best way I can describe what we do, it's all the best things about the Irish without the alcohol. Our music is intergenerational trad music. Our dance, Bill Whalen's a good friend who wrote Riverdance. And what Bill did was to take something that now, no matter who you are and where you are, who doesn't love the beauty of Irish step dancing? So our culture is very rich. And so that's the main thing we want to promote on the day. And not just our music and our dance, our great contribution to the arts. And then the other part of it, quite frankly, is St. Patrick himself, meaning the irony is about 2 years ago, we did a survey on the street on Patrick's Day. And we went up to a bunch of people, most of them young, and said, great, hey, happy St. Patrick's Day. And can you tell me, what can you tell me about St. Patrick? And almost to a person, they could say next to nothing of who he was. A couple of people mentioned something about snakes. But of course, as you probably know, there were no snakes in Ireland. And so we did this little 3-minute video last year by 2 television award-winning producers that we thought, people should really know who we're celebrating on this day. And it's a great little video. It's on our website. Yep. It's gotten a lot of plays. It's aired nationally on Canadian television. And in any event, it's something that I'd love people to take advantage of because it's a nice reminder of who we are.
And I don't want to give away the punchline here, but the message of the video and of St. Patrick that you presented seems to be forgiveness.
That's right, because people don't realize, as a slave, and not even Irish, that when he chose to go back to Ireland after having been enslaved there, not only was he on a mission to show people a new way of seeing the world, but he had to deal with the very people who enslaved him. And by forgiving them, that was a great liberating thing for him. And it's true for all of us. The best thing I learned in recovery about holding on to grudges, this is a great expression, holding on to grudges, which we Irish, of course, are well known for, right? It's like taking poison and waiting for the other person to die. So it just eats away at you. Yeah. So let it go, man, and forgive and move on. And for Catholics and Protestants, this little video we think is working wonders because with what's gone on for years between Catholics and Protestants. And of course, Patrick is a pre-Reformation saint, and he's owned by both Catholics and Protestants, is the importance of learning to forgive and get on with it. Because look, we all screw up, we all make mistakes, but to continue to hold a grudge, the last thing I remember, this is true in my own family. This is a bit, the joke about Irish Alzheimer's, that's when you forget everything except the grudges. Which we Irish are notorious for. What a waste of time that is.
Well, Bill, you mentioned screw-ups there. You're putting on, you mentioned like putting on a live event. You're only going to do this thing once. You're going to do it next year, but it's going to be different next year. What are some of the misadventures and mishaps or surprises along the way? Maybe not all mishaps.
Well, it's funny. They're really, we're good at what we do, and I have assembled a really good team of people. And The surprising thing about this is the level of the entertainment that most people are surprised at. And because we have some sponsorship, we're able to make it very affordable. When I first started this, I really wanted to make sure that anyone could go to this. And it includes a buffet dinner and soft drinks and tea and coffee and great entertainment. And for $35, where can you get that in New York? And
Yeah, I
so,
was going to say 2 pints are going to cost you
there
that
go.
much.
That's right. And with
When you
all this
put a
great
tip down.
entertainment. So I would say along the way, honestly, I'm not ducking the question here. There really haven't been any
No,
mishaps.
that's right.
We've been lucky because live events are tricky. You know,
Yeah.
you live and die by sound.
Yes.
Sound is more important than lighting, although both are important. But we have a great team. A guy named Mark Steele is our producer now and has been for the last several years. Stefan Ben Said handles all of our sound and video. So it's just a really good team. And the best thing about the surprise for me was after the first several years, one of our key musicians, Brian Conway, when he was being interviewed on the radio about this, he said, I love to play this gig because on Patrick's Day, nobody would hear us in the pubs, right? It was a madhouse.
Yeah.
And I like to play this gig because people are going to listen to us.
Yeah.
That's part of it too. It's the quality.
That's a great thing you bring out because maybe you could address a misconception that you find when you tell people about Sober St. Patrick's Day, and maybe they have the wrong idea that it's a sort of AA meeting with music.
Yeah, for some people it is.
Yeah.
But that's the key thing, is to have people realize, that's only a part of the audience. The much bigger audience is anyone who doesn't want to be hijacked by the insanity of the day.
Right.
And particularly for parents with kids.
Yeah.
They don't bring their kids to the pubs, at least very few, because it's too crazy. And so when the Irish press has written about us, they said this is the ultimate family-friendly event on Patrick's Day. And so it's a great haven for a kind of a safe, healthy environment. And the other thing is we found in the last couple of years, maybe as an outgrowth of dry January, there's an awful lot of people who are not in recovery, who are just doing it for health reasons, who are
Sober curious.
Oh, yeah, and particularly among young women, because quite frankly, date rape goes way up on St. Patrick's Day. So a lot of women are very sensitive to and want to be able to celebrate. And so we're also a place for folks like that.
You're taking little clips and snapshots of highlights over the years.
Uh-huh.
What are some of the things that pop
Oh, my
up for
gosh.
you?
Oh, that's a great question. The one that first comes to mind is 2 years ago when former Congressman Patrick Kennedy spoke at our event. And since he left Congress, he has been doing nothing but working to raise awareness about the dangers of drug addiction, alcoholism, and mental health. And Patrick had said, because of his own story and his own recovery, that as a member of Congress, he was involved with a Republican congressman from the Midwest, and they passed the Mental Health Parity Act. And I remember him talking at the event saying how he's never seen anything on this day that better epitomizes what the Irish people should be most proud of. And that's the beauty of our culture. And that permeates everything that we do. The other person comes to mind was the year before, Bill Moyer's son, William Cope Moyers, who is a vice president at Hazelden Betty Ford and in recovery. He's outed himself about that. He talked about what it was like to walk up Fifth Avenue with us, because that was the first year we were invited by the parade to march in the parade. And he said, for somebody who wouldn't even imagine being sober on St. Patrick's Day, but to walk up Fifth Avenue, proud of being sober and in recovery, behind a banner of this, he said it was literally one of the key highlights of his life. And that's his words, not mine. And so it's interesting about him because he also has talked about why he thinks our position in that parade has become so important. And really what happened was, after 10 years of doing this event, I got a call from Hillary Byrne. I think Bridget O'Brien had spoken to him and told him that this is our 10th anniversary. He said, oh, I know. He said, I've been watching these guys. He said, we thought they wouldn't last 1 year. So I got a call from Hillary, and he said, for your 10th anniversary, we would like to invite you to march in the parade. It's always been my dream. And he said, also, you should know that you're only one of 2 organizations we're inviting in this year. So that was huge for us. And so this will be the 4th year that we're marching in the parade. And the calls we've gotten from people coming from different parts of the country to march with us. That's like the icing on the cake of being legitimized.
Right.
As you well know, the gay community fought long and hard to be included in the parade. And the fact that we are, I think, is the last great prejudice. And It's extraordinary because I must tell you, we were nervous the first year. We said, oh, the people are going to think about this, right?
And I'm sure you got a few people.
But it's interesting. It's funny. Yeah, we did get a few people, but I must tell you, I kid you not, John, at least 90 to 95% of the people were cheering us on. Yeah. Other people with looks of total cluelessness saying, what's this? But a great reception. And it's been that way for the last 4 years that we've marched. So it's going to be great this year. I'm thrilled with it.
I always march with the Irish Business Organization, and since it's a business organization, we look business attire, dark suits and dark jackets and all that. We're walking up Fifth, and some guy's yelling out, "Hey, look, it's the 1%." I wish. But no, I was thinking, you'll see I wrote down in my notebook here, pride. And just before you got to that idea of embracing it, embrace the stigma.
Yep.
This is who we are.
Yep.
There's more dimensions to this than you can imagine.
Yeah, that's so true, John, because what people don't understand about people in recovery, they frequently think, oh, gee, poor Johnny, poor Billy, he can't have a drink. He's such a nice guy. It must really stink, and I feel bad for him.
Yeah.
Nothing could be further from the truth.
Right.
People with good recovery have no problem belling up to the bar. They have no problem with being with people who are drinking. It's just that they've gotten to the point where they realize that for them, it actually doesn't help them. But again, it's the last thing they would want to do.
Yeah.
So it's not a matter of, oh, poor Johnny, poor Billy.
Right.
Not one bit. That's the last thing I want to do because I know how to have a great time now with being sober. In fact, Malachi McCord always came to our event every year.
Legend.
And Malachi, I think in the first year, he said, this is probably the most important event that's ever happened on St. Patrick's Day, right? And then he joked to the person from Channel 11, McGee Hickey was interviewing him for Pix 11 TV News, and she said, what's it like for you? He said, let me tell you something. He said, I can wake up on the 18th of March remembering who I did insult,
right.
And I don't worry about that anymore.
Right.
But it's true. He'd be the first one to say he's happy in his own new world. And a lot of people don't get that.
Bill, let's say I'm somebody listening to this podcast and I go, okay, this is interesting. This might be fun for my family. I guess we could take the train in from Long Island.
Yes.
What would that, but I'm not sure, is that really for me? What would that person like that coming to the door, might just mention where it is and how they get there, very conveniently located, but what are they going to experience when they come through the door?
They better buy a ticket in advance.
Yeah, good. That's good.
Because there almost certainly won't be any tickets at the door. There never have been.
Good warning.
But the great thing about where we are, we're on 38th and Park, so it's literally a 4-block walk from Grand Central.
Right.
So now that the Long Island Railroad stops in Grand Central, and whether you're coming from wherever or Westchester, it's a great location. Perfect. So you don't have to drive the car.
Yeah.
And if you just come to the event, it's at 5 o'clock, so it's right after the parade ends, with the alternative party while all the insanity takes place. And it's at the Church of Our Savior on 38th and Park, downstairs in their Undercroft. Beautiful space. And when you walk in the door, you have world-class musicians already playing. So you walk into a great vibe of great trad music. And this year, besides John Whalen, who's a 7-time All-Ireland champion, and Brian Conway, who's a 5-time, Jerry O'Sullivan, who's the best Ellen Piper player in America, will be with us, and Brendan Dolan. And just the other day, Mary Courtney called, and she said she'd love to perform with us.
That's great.
And one of the highlights of the event every year are the Donnie Golden Dancers. They're certainly among the best step dancers in the Northeast. In fact, Jane Butler, who played the original lead in Riverdance 30 years ago, was trained by Donnie Golden. And they're a great group of young people. We have a magician this year who's going to do some sleight of hand, table to table. And so it's a jam-packed 2.5 hours. And as I say, it comes with a buffet dinner. Tickets are easily gotten on our website, which is sober.stpatricksday.org. It's ST with no dot, so it's sober.stpatricksday.org.
Right.
And the tickets it's $37.50 is the top ticket price.
Right.
Kids is only $16.50. Where can you find an evening like that?
And the kids, how are we going to keep them occupied?
There's a great whole kiddie area that we do, but what they love the best is the dancing. And there's a whole kiddie corner where they do their own jigs and all that good stuff. And obviously little kids 3 and under are free. But I highly recommend that people go to the website and get their tickets now because it will almost certainly sell out in advance.
So a warm welcome is guaranteed.
That's for sure. And it's great because you don't know who anyone is. You could be hanging out at a table with somebody in recovery, or you could be hanging out with Mrs. Smith, who is a member of that parish, or you could be hanging out with the Consul General of Ireland. I don't know if Eileen is going to come, but my point is it's that kind of a great mix of people, music lovers and just folk. And many people come who are not Irish, just the way St. Patrick's Day, everybody's Irish on St. Patrick's Day.
As long as you mentioned the council, let's give them a plug.
Oh,
here.
boy.
What support they give to the community. We were just at the First Friday breakfast. They announced the details of Sober St. Patrick's Day. They had it listed at the top of their flyer.
Yeah.
And for all the other community groups too, there's the first port of call when you need something done in the Irish community here in New York.
You know, and the fact that they help promote us says everything. And it started with Noel Kilkenny and Peter Ryan when they were the Consul General and the Deputy. And I'm just always so grateful to what the consulate does in supporting us. Because again, they stuck their neck out by doing this, but I think they get it, why this is important about stereotype and also about being careful about the message we're sending to young people. And all those young kids are doing. Look, I was one of them.
Yeah.
That 22-year-old kid that was drunk as a skunk in 2011, that was me 40 years before.
Right.
We're not pointing fingers.
No.
We're just benefiting from what we've learned. But that kid, he was only doing what his big brother does.
Yeah.
So they're just emulating what they see.
Do you ever think about him? Like, where is he now? What happened?
But it's funny that you say that. I was just thinking the other day that I would love to find a way to track him down because he's probably about 36 now, and God only knows where he is.
Yeah.
But I've told this story a couple of times, and I would love to find a way, and I don't know how to do that, but if anybody out there has an idea, we know he's from New Jersey. That's where he got the T-shirt. And by the way, those T-shirts are just, they continue to sell them. They're despicable. I wish I were drunk.
Yeah.
But I must tell you, John, this year, for the first time, somebody said they're still selling these horrible T-shirts and they're making a lot of money on them. I was shocked to see that now they're selling sober T-shirts. I couldn't believe my eyes. And I'm positive that's only because of the message that we've been sending over these last 14 years, because they didn't exist a few years ago.
Yeah, what I saw was with the Shamrock, "Kiss Me, I'm Sober."
There you go.
And that wasn't the only one.
Right.
Yeah. I've always, like yourself, I have enjoyed the record too along the way.
Sure.
But that whole image of the green bear and all that just was, even as an Irish-American plastic patty, I was like, nah, that's not good.
When you said about the Ireland, it was Noel Kilkenny who said in our first year as the Consul General, he said the pubs were closed in Ireland when he was growing up as a kid.
Yeah.
And they were. And my theory is, and I'm not certain of this, but that's now changed in Ireland because they're doing what we do on St. Patrick's Day. It's a zoo over there too on St. Patrick's Day. And I really think what happened was, and I'm not certain of this, but it was really New York that, because it's New York and our parade is the biggest in the world, that image began to spread. And then I believe it was in 1998 when the government of Ireland realized that they could promote Patrick's Day, and whether that was tied to the Good Friday Agreement, I don't know, but to use it as a tourism thing. And so I think the American way of doing it just spilled into Ireland.
Right.
And now it's the same insanity there. And it was Martino Meyer who had me meet with the Belfast City Council, I think after our second year, because they do an event right after their parade in Belfast for 5,000 people. And they didn't serve any alcohol because they wanted it to be family friendly.
And Martine's the former Lord Mayor, who's the publisher of the Irish Echo and the Irish Stew alumnus as well.
Yes.
Well, Bill, I think we covered a lot of territory here. Anything else did you wanted to get into the conversation that we missed?
I don't think so, other than I hope that people listening will come. Go to the website, soberstpatricksday.org. But even more importantly, send us an email if you have any thoughts about wanting to spread this. Other cities have begun to do it. It's important to know that our name is trademarked. There's a little R next to it because what we don't want is anybody using the name and either making money off of it or exploiting it or hurting it in any way. To use the name requires our permission. And next year, I'm seriously thinking about live streaming the event so that people out of New York could also participate. But I need to raise some more money for that. So if anyone wants to help with that, we'd love to find an additional sponsor and ones we have right now. And Pepsi has always been one of our major sponsors, and the Mons Concepit Foundation and the New York City Department of Aging and other individual donations. So like any other 501c3 not-for-profit, we're looking for money. So If you want to contribute, whether it's $5 or $5,000, we would love to hear from you, but particularly to find a new sponsor to live stream it for next year.
Bigger and better things on the horizon. Wish you all the success for a great event this year. Great getting to know you over the last few years.
Yeah, and thank you, John. And really, the great success we've had this year is because of our new executive director, a woman by the name of Christine Harrington. Christine is a force of nature, and I'm so fortunate to have found her. And she's taken over from Tammy Ellen McLaughlin, who got a full-time job. And Christine has been someone who will be the future voice of this organization. I'm not getting any younger. I'm not going anywhere, but she's the one.
Great, great. The future is secure.
There you go.
If you'll be in New York on St. Patrick's Day and want to reclaim the day with Irish music and culture, log on to soberstpatricksday.org to get your tickets before they're gone. And join Martin Nutty and me next week for our own St. Patrick's Day episode when the rockin' writer Larry Kerwin returns to Irish Stew to take us on a tour of his novel, Rockin' the Bronx. See you then.
Irish Stew is produced by John Lee, Martin Nutty, and Bill Schultz. Editing, mixing, and mastering by Bill Schultz. Music on Irish Stew was composed and performed by Rosa Nutty, with Donald Bowens on drums, Cathal O'Riordan on bass and synthesizer. For more on Rosa Nutty's music, please visit rosanutty.com.